in the late spring of 1993, I was a hot mess. I was considering dropping out of college. I'd had 3 different majors, and I didn't like any of them. So I decided to shake things up. Rather than go home to Maryland for the summer, I decided I would stay in Illinois. I asked my Aunt Judy if I could spend the summer with her at her place on the north side of Chicago. And it was my plan to spend that summer looking deeply and hard and honestly at what I really wanted my path in life to be. I'd been lying to myself. I'd chosen majors because it's what I thought my parents wanted, or I thought it was what was right for my skill set or what I was supposed to do. And I wanted to choose the thing that I really wanted. So I got a part-time job at a credit union as a teller, and that first week I was on the bus and I was reading the Tribune. And I saw an ad for weekend improv workshops at the Second City, Chicago's premier improv and sketch comedy troupe. Now, I love improv. I was a big fan of Saturday Night Live, and I thought, well, this is a possible path. I mean, it's a crazy one, but take the class. It'll be fun. So I registered, and that following Saturday, I was in a studio classroom at the Second City location there on North Wells. And I met our teacher, a man named David Rozowski. Now, David, to this day, is a well-regarded and renowned sketch and improv teacher. But that summer, he was also a member of the main stage cast of the Second City. Second City has a number of casts, and they all feed up to the main stage. When you've made it there, you are at the pinnacle. So it was a big deal to be taught by David. After the Sunday class that first weekend, I found myself leaving class at the same time David was leaving, and we were headed in the same direction toward the same L stop, the Metro in Chicago. And we fell into conversation. So, Jack, why are you taking an improv class? You know, I'm looking for some kind of path in life. I'm thinking of dropping out of college. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Where are you, Northwestern, Loyola? No, it's out west in DeKalb, Northern Illinois University? You're kidding me. I graduated from NIU 10 years ago. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, so I'm spending the summer with my aunt in Rogers Park. I live in Rogers Park. I grew up there. Where are you? Whereabouts? So we had some things in common, and we hit it off, and we had a great conversation. So I was all the more eager to show up for class the following Saturday. And I got there so early, I was like half an hour early, and I was just kicking around the downstairs lobby. And I noticed a help wanted sign. They were looking for bartenders for the show. Now, I've done a little bartending the summer before, and I had some time to kill, so I went and found the manager and said, I'm interested, and he asked for some references, and by that Sunday, I had a job as the bartender at the main stage show of the Second City, which meant that I was going to get to spend all summer watching the main cast doing improv. It was a dream come true. Now, the way it was set up, the stage was about like this, and in a wide crescent, the audience was sitting at tables much like this, and then at the back was the bar. Now, before the show, the bar is very busy. At intermission, very busy. While the show's actually going on, there's not much for the bartenders to do. So I could sit and literally just watch the show all summer. And the way the Second City works, at least the way it worked back then, during the summer, they are building up to their big fall review that they mount each September. They come in with a couple of scripted sketches that are all ready to go, and they're just going to tweak them a little. But a lot of the time, they're working on improv, and they're mining new ideas that they can then craft into fully realized sketches that will go into the fall show. So not only did I get to watch these amazing performers, but I got to watch them workshopping things night after night after night. It was amazing to see. anyone who makes it onto the main stage at the Second City is a talented performer. You don't get to set foot there if you don't have the chops. That summer had a very sterling lineup. Amy Sedaris from Strangers with Candy and a favorite of Letterman back in the day. Steve Carell from The Office. And Stephen Colbert. I got to watch them in their infancy. And there was no way I could know what they would become, but even then, they were all pretty special performers, and it was great to get to watch them. And after the show, most nights, David and I would take the L together, and he would break down the show for me. What had worked, what hadn't, and why. And it was this masterclass in the intricacies of sketch and improv. And I couldn't believe how lucky I was. And one night I must have had a particularly starry-eyed look in my eyes. And David turned to me. Are you thinking of auditioning? Do you want to get into the Second City program? Oh, I don't know. I mean, I've daydreamed about it, sure. I don't know if I have the chops, though. I mean, maybe, yeah? Well, let me tell you a few things. And for the rest of that trip and in subsequent conversations, he laid out for me what it meant to be a working performer in sketch and improv. The highs and the lows, the pros and the cons. I didn't feel like he was trying to steer me in either direction. He just wanted me to have all the possible information I could have so I could make a good decision. And decision time was coming. August rolled around, and I was going to have to either send in my tuition or pick a new path. So that first Friday in August, I was at the show. I was setting up the bar, and David comes rushing out from backstage. Jack, we got a problem, and I need your help. What? What could I possibly help with? Paul Dinello's wife just went into labor. He's at the hospital. He's not going to be here tonight. Now, we've been working to rework the sketches. We're going to do a couple of the old ones that only need a few of us. But the last sketch, we need everybody. Now, you've been watching the show all summer. Do you know Paul's lines? Now, this last sketch, they had been doing virtually unchanged all summer. I had seen that sketch 75 times. Did I know Paul's lines? I knew all their lines. Yeah, I know Paul's lines. He's only got like 3 of them. Yeah, I can do it. So he quizzed me, and I got all the lines right. He said, okay, here's how it's going to go. When we start the last improv set, make your way backstage. The lights will come down. The lights will come up for the last sketch. You know the cue. Come on out. And so that's how I found myself backstage in the dark, about to set foot on the main stage of the Second City. The cue came, I walked out, and I see my teacher, David, and Amy, and Steve, and Stephen, who I've watched all summer. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see the audience, and I can see the bar, and I'm on the other side now. Somehow, the lines came out. I got them all right. Now, Paul in that sketch really didn't have a lot of heavy comedy lifting to do. They were all setup lines, but I set them out right, and the sketch worked. And the lights came down, and we got great applause. And when the lights came back up, the cast went up to take their bows. And I was just sitting there in the seat I'd been in for most of the sketch, grinning like an idiot. And after a second, David looks back at me and ushers me up. Folks, thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to introduce you to this young man. This is Jack Scheer. He is a student of mine here at the Second City. He also probably sold you some drinks tonight. Paul Dinello, who is in this cast, usually here, he just became a father tonight. We needed someone to help with our last sketch. Jack came up here without preparation, without rehearsal, and I think he did a pretty damn good job. What do you think? Oh, you're bringing me back. I got a warm round of applause, and David and Amy and Stephen and Steve were cheering me on. Unlike the chorus girl who goes out there a nobody and comes back a star, that was my first and last time on a professional stage. David had done me a huge favor in outlining everything that goes into being a working performer. And I realized that as glorious as it seemed and as wonderful as that feeling had been, I would be lying to myself if I thought I could handle the rigors of being a working comedian in sketch and improv. And so I went back to school, and I followed a more normal path. I think about that night a lot. And sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. Most of the time, I'm happy with the path I chose. I have a good life. Sometimes I wonder, what if? But I have this. For one night, for one sketch, I was a member of the main stage cast of the Second City. And for that night, I had the chops.